Hey, Astro Lover, welcome back to I Talk to Planets. This is Claire Gallagher, your host, and I am thrilled about another guest episode we have on the podcast this week. Today, we're going to be talking to one of my best friends, honestly, in the universe. Her name is Miranda Braithwaite. And you know Miranda, you just don't know that you know Miranda. If you've been around my work for a while, you may remember a little something, gosh, when was it? 2017, 18? A little something called Moon Pages. That was a project that Miranda and I did together. Miranda did the design, I did the writing. It was a match made in heaven. And although we aren't talking about moon pages today, and that's a project that will probably never materialize again, may it rest in peace, we are talking about the intersection of astrology and design, specifically astrology and branding. And I think you're going to absolutely geek out over Miranda's work. Miranda Braithwaite is the creative director behind Moonstone, a brand and web design studio helping female founders grow their businesses with clarity, confidence, and style. Through her signature Moonstone Method, Miranda and her team blend astrology and strategy to craft holistic brand identities that feel like home and call in your dream clients. That sounds like a dream to me, so I hope you enjoy this episode. It's going to be fantastic. You're going to be so inspired, and I'll talk to you after. Hi, Miranda. Welcome to I Talk to Planets.
Hi, Claire. Thanks for having me. I feel like it's a long time coming.
It is a long time coming. I am so very excited to talk with you today, all about astrology and design, our two favorite things put together. So I'm just giddy about this. Thank you for saying yes. And something I love to start with everyone, because I have so many guests on the show, is is what is your favorite planet channeling beverage and notebook? Because that's very important.
Yeah. Well, beverages, it depends on the time of day. If it's morning, coffee. If it's afternoon, coffee. Anytime before 2 p.m., it's coffee. And if it's evening, which honestly, usually it is when I'm running like the
Ooh.
Claire method of planet channeling, it's nothing because I can't drink water or anything too late at night. So
Yeah.
we're just drying out. Yeah.
Yeah. That's where we are
Um,
in life. Yeah.
yeah.
Got it.
Yeah. Notebooks, I go through way too many notebooks in a year to get really fancy ones. So it is whatever's on sale at Dollarama.
I love that. I love that we're two peas
Well,
in a pod there.
on sale is like obviously that's not relevant at Dollarama, but I do have stipulations. It has to be spiral bound
Mm,
and it has to be kind of big because I have
mm.
huge handwriting, so I like
Really?
space.
Are
Yeah.
you a lefty?
No.
You're not? Okay. I
Are
am.
you?
Yeah. I was hoping you were in that club with me, but that's okay. We
No.
forgive. I love that. Okay, so we're on the same track with the cheap notebooks for planet channeling. I love that.
Mhm.
And we're on the same track with the coffee, like because it's the
You're
best.
back.
We're
You're
back,
back.
baby. We're back.
We could have a whole separate podcast chat just about the coffee journey.
Just about that journey, yes, but we will refrain.
Stay on
So,
topic.
yeah, we're going to stay on topic as best we can, which is going to be hard, but I want to know, well, I know, but I want our listeners to know why we should care about astrology when it comes to brand and design, because it's not something you hear about a lot. And you're kind of on the cutting edge of this. So I would love your inside scoop on why it matters.
So, branding is my job as a brand designer is to get to know you and your business inside out so that I can create something that really reflects the experience of what it's like to work with you and capture that value and translate it visually in a way that it's going to attract your ideal client. I work solely with women who are the face of their brands, whether the business is their name or something else, they are the face of it.
Okay.
So their personality is a huge part of the brand. They don't want to attract people who aren't going to jive with their personality, who aren't going to get their method. So it's all about creating that alignment. And to do that, I really need to understand who you are and to deliver something that's going to light you up and make you feel seen and excited and confident going out there and sharing your brand. Because, like, this is your main marketing tool. Like, this is where everything is going to stem from. So you have to love it. And to tap into what's going to make you love it and strategically connect with all of your goals, I have just found astrology to be such a valuable tool because as humans, we are not the greatest at explaining what makes us special, what makes us unique. Like, it's just so in us that it can be really hard to articulate that. And the branding process usually involves some kind of intake questionnaire or survey or interview where we ask a whole bunch of questions about you and your business. Lots of fun questions in lots of different ways. And I do this too to kind of pull that information out of you and get to know you better. Um, but it's really only based on what you can consciously explain.
Mm,
And as designers, we kind of like read between the lines and we'll talk to your customers and we'll research your competition and all of that. But when I started using astrology as a tool to get to know my clients on a different level, the results of my work just skyrocketed. Like, people were so happy with the results. They were so excited to know that their brand had that extra level of meaning
hmm
and depth to it. And
hmm
so it's not only really a fun way to approach branding, it has really helped me connect with my clients on a different level and help them feel more connected to their brand.
There's so much about that that I absolutely adore. And one of the things that you said that really struck me was like when you do a branding questionnaire, it's really like only the things you can consciously explain. But when you're using the astrology chart, you get to tap into parts of the business owner that maybe they don't even see, but they resonate with on a really deep level. So when they see the brand, it's like they recognize themselves in the brand, even if they couldn't explain it to you with words. I think that's extremely powerful.
It is, yeah, you said that brilliantly. It is like that aha moment of like, oh, that's what I couldn't articulate. I get that a lot with people. Like, they really have a hard time articulating
hmm
what's working, what's not working, and why. And visuals are so emotive. Like, it is hard to explain art and explain creative choices and why they make us feel the way they do. So it's just this sort of like whole other language that we can speak to each other.
Yeah, and I know from firsthand experience it adds so much depth and dimension to the work that you do. Um, I can't imagine you doing it any other way at this point. And so I would love to go back in time and hear a little bit about how this happened. Like, what's the origin story? Why did you start doing this in the first place?
So I started small. So I've always been fascinated by astrology since I was a little kid.
hmm
Really thought it was cool that I was a Pisces sun, and what does that mean? What does that say about me? Always loved personality type tools to help us get to know ourselves and other people better. And that, to me, what astrology really is for. That's what I love it for. Um, so I was always fascinated and drawn to it. And probably around like 2016, I was in my early 30s and having one of those like, is this it? What am I doing with my life kind of spirals about
Hmm.
my career, about my relationship, about like a lot of things that were going on in my life. And astrology started, I don't know how it just like got kicked up a huge notch in my life. I think I honestly took a workshop with you or
Really?
some kind of course. Like I think I just started researching more.
Yeah.
Astrology, tarot, all of these other things. I started being like, why have I like kind of lost touch with this? And maybe this will help me find answers. Basically, just started building a spiritual practice.
Hmm.
And it helped me so much tap back into who I wanted to be and who I wanted to work with and who I really was inside and how to feel confident realigning with her. So it helped me. And I thought, why not use this to help other people? So I started small in my business and we would just like offer astrology readings as part of the intake process. But at that time, I wasn't really designing the brand using the astrology as a huge inspiration. It was more like the astrology will help you with your business ownership side of things. And we
Hmm.
would use it to cast like electional charts for launch dates.
Which is
And
great.
people loved that. People
Yeah.
loved that. Yeah, it was super fun. Um, but then over time, this is like 5 years ago or something. And over the last 5 years, I've started to just integrate it more and more and more into the design process. And as you know, I've been for the last while building this framework where it's like it's the process.
Hmm.
Um, I have like over 10 years of experience designing brands the strategic, traditional way. And so now I've been melding those two things together to build a framework that's my own.
Yeah.
And it's just like, yeah, going deeper and deeper down the rabbit hole, and it's going so well.
I would love if you don't mind to dive into the framework a little bit because I'm sure those who are listening or watching are just like, oh my God, I need to know. I need, I need to know. So when it comes to a personal brand, I'm assuming you're using the natal chart for that as opposed to a business chart for a personal brand. Is that right?
That's how I do it. Yeah. But I do
Perfect.
think it's totally valid to use the business's chart, especially if there's multiple founders, if you're in a partnership. But
Okay.
yeah, my
Good
clients
point.
tend to be solo, like they're the brand. So we use their natal chart.
Okay. Perfect. And so, what, I mean, you don't have to give it all away, but what parts of the chart do you think are the most visually represented when you use your method? Like, what parts of the chart do you look at first?
Yeah. So I love to look at the rising sign for visual inspiration
Mm,
and the chart ruler, the sign that the chart ruler lives in the chart.
nice.
So
Perfect.
those two together. And so they get melded in a way. So you will never just have a brand that's all about one sign. It's going to take flavor or spice, as they kind of usually say, to like put together the whole recipe.
Hmm.
And the balance of where that lands, it has a lot to do with where you're at in your business, what your business model is, what your offers are, who your customer is. That will inspire the balance. And then the other parts of your chart that I look at, like your sun sign, your moon sign, your midheaven. Sometimes just by talking to someone and getting to know them, you can tell that those parts of the chart are really strong and need to
Yeah.
also be kind of integrated into the design. So I have this framework of places that I look, and then it's just like, I guess, more of an intuitive process of like getting to know them and feeling out their business and really understanding what their goals are to find the right balance of how we put that together. So it's still quite strategic, and like that whole background I have in traditional brand strategy and design is very much integrated with it. So
Yeah.
it's just like bringing these tools together. But yeah, to answer your question for visuals, I would say the rising sign is the place to start because that's like sort of what you are perceived as, how people perceive you, and generally, in
Mhm.
my experience, how we kind of identify the most ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree with that. Especially like if you're thinking about your brand as like, hello, my name is Claire, and meeting someone for the first time. I come across as Sagittarius. That's how it works. And you come across as Libra. That's how it works. And so it makes perfect sense to me, at least, that you would lean on that zodiac sign for a lot of visual inspiration. But I think it's really cool and really like spot on from a technical standpoint that you also look to the chart ruler and the sign that it's in, because that's really going to change like how a Sag rising is going to present, or how one Libra rising will present differently from another Libra rising. So I think that's fascinating.
And like if we didn't do that and we didn't take into account what your business was looking to do and who you like to serve, like every Libra brand might start to look the same,
Right.
and I never want to design the same brand twice. So there's so much nuance involved. And that's where I would say like the professional design experience really comes in. Is like what are the different ways we can express this energy visually?
Right.
And where can we pull in from other parts of the chart? Like if you have a stellium, I can't ignore that, even if it's not
Of
in a
course.
sign that's like technically in the framework.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's a it's a system, but it's still very much personalized to the client, it sounds like,
Yeah.
because no two charts are the same. They are so unique. How about like, I know there's so much more to branding than just what you see on the surface. What about the more strategic pieces of the brand, or the things that you work on as a designer that maybe people don't really think of as branding? Are there parts of the chart that you look at for those maybe less visual but more strategic places?
Yeah. So for me, it's the moon sign that tells us a lot about how you might want to set things up behind the scenes.
Cool.
Um, a lot of one of like the things that lights me up the most about branding is thinking about like your funnel, your sales, and branding such a vague, broad term.
Right.
There's so much involved, but one of the biggest things that we talk about in branding is who is your target audience. And we want to make sure that whatever we create is going to capture their attention and call them in.
Hmm.
And I think the moon sign has so much to say about who you want to work with because it also has so much to say about what you need to feel safe and secure and supported inside your business. So, for example, if you're a person who doesn't like long-term containers, for example, like if you want to get people in and out of your process, quick results, like maybe an Aries moon,
Yeah.
you're probably not going to want to attract somebody who needs a 6-month hand-holding relationship of high-touch one-on-one support.
Right.
So we can dig into some real nuance of who your ideal customer is by looking at your moon sign that goes beyond what do they do for a living, what gender are they, where do they like to shop. Like that's
Yeah.
all stuff we look at too, but those like basic demographics, we can go more into the psychographics and like the type of offer that will make you excited. I've been saying lately, like your ideal client is the client who respects and values your needs based on your moon sign.
That's like a mic drop moment, because I typically, like in business astro, we think about the seventh house, but the way you're describing this really sells me on the idea of the moon as describing also the ideal person who will respect you in the work that you do. And having more of those people will make you feel fulfilled and happy and safe in your business. All those things that the moon needs to feel nurtured and even. So that's eye-opening for me. That's a really unique spin, but I think it's sounds pretty solid and awesome.
Oh, wow. That's like high praise coming from you.
I'll have to think on that for myself, as an Aquarius moon individual, um, how that lands for me. So that's homework for me to think about. But that's really a neat spin. Is there anything else strategic? Like, what about, like we hear this word messaging all the time or voice all the time. Are there parts of the chart that you look to for that?
Yeah. So for brand voice, I feel like Mercury is the most obvious choice. And this really clicked into place for me when I started looking at my own chart in this way. Because, you know, you can have a really like nurturing offer or a very spiritual offer, but that
Mm-hmm.
doesn't mean you need to talk about it very softly or um you know, the word is
Floating,
escaping me. Yeah, like
ethereal.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. Like poetically.
right.
Um And if you try to do that, because that's how you've seen other people talk about spiritual offers, you're not going to feel very authentic and you're going to come across as being inauthentic, and creating content is going to be a struggle.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, my Mercury's in Aries. So I have a pretty emotionally kind of like artsy offer, but I like to be as specific and to the point and direct about it as possible. Like I
Yeah.
like very clear, like don't give me jargon.
Mm-hmm.
Make the sentences as short as you can, like just spit it out kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, and so I feel like when you understand your Mercury sign, it kind of gives you permission to just like write the way you speak and let your
Yeah.
brand message really reflect how you would just like talk to somebody in person. And I think that's a huge
Yeah.
mistake that people make is they try to like sound too academic or too polished when it's like we just want you to
Yeah.
be you.
Like a big insecurity that I have, I'm just going to out myself right now, is that I I am not long-winded. Like I don't talk a lot and I don't just go on and on. I can't just go on and on and on about any topic or any astrology part of the chart. That's just not how I roll. I'm very like succinct and efficient. And I also have my Mercury in a fire sign, which can be really like expressive, but it's typically like, this is just give it to me straight,
Yeah, I said what I
And
need to say.
yeah, I said what I needed to say. And in astrology, at least, there's a lot of poetry and a lot of like being able to describe the symbolism for many minutes. And I'm just like, yeah, no, I can't do that. So I
I
really
think that's one
love the
of the
freedom.
reasons. That's why I resonate with your work so much, I think, because it is like clear.
Well, thank you. And I agree, like the same with your work. And even I can feel that Aries Mercury come through, even in the way you write your newsletters. Like there's so much value in what you're writing, but it's very short. Like they're never like novels. They're very clean, very clear, very digestible, but you still get a lot out of it. And so, for any of you out there that are worried you don't have enough to say, or it's not like as much as someone else, like us fire Mercuries, we appreciate that about you.
Yeah, look at your Mercury sign. And less is generally more, I think, when it comes to marketing copy. We are so inundated with content. And so if you can get your point across more quickly, no matter where
Yeah,
Mercury is in your chart, like we all really value that. Like
we do.
we value that. So don't be afraid to be short.
Yeah. Speaking of things that we might need to tweak and do a little better, I have a harder question for you, and that is, what do
Take
you
a breath.
think? Everybody flip your hair, take a sip, get ready. Um, what do you think are some of the bigger mistakes that we entrepreneurs who are not designers make when we're DIYing our design? I know you could probably write a book on this one, but I'd love to hear what comes to mind first.
I could write a manifesto on like the technical things. As you
Sure.
know, I knew this question was coming and I overthought it to death. There are so many technical things that you study as a designer. So I just want to say that, first of all, like I think that because of tools like Canva, like it's great that design is accessible to people who are starting businesses and just need to start.
Yeah,
But the tool does not make the expert or the pro. The camera does not make the photographer. So I cannot sit here and nitpick that like DIY business owners DIYing their own creative are like not using typography or white space in the way that I would as a trained designer.
sure.
So there's tons of that. And just know, I just think that's important to know. Like there's a lot that goes into creating a layout that is going to communicate your message effectively. That said, I totally understand why people just need to get started. And a lot of people just like playing around with design and they don't have time or funds to hire a designer, and that's fine. So my answer to this question is twofold. The biggest mistakes I see are DIYing for too long.
Mm,
So I think once you can afford to delegate design, you should, because especially if it's not your sweet spot or your area of genius, um, take that time back in your business and focus on your offers and your clients and the bigger picture. Like, give that to a pro and focus on moving the needle in other ways when you can. And that's different for everybody. The second thing I think is just like consistency. So
the
what
C
is
word.
consistency? Um, it's really just like so much more simple than we make it. Use the same font for your headlines every single time. Use
Okay.
the same spacing. Use the same background colors. Pick one or two background colors and always use them. Use the same color for your buttons every time. I think that we tend to get a little bored of our own design. And if something doesn't land on social media, we jump to like, oh, it must be the design. I need to fix the design.
Right.
No, becoming recognizable is so important. And try switching up the messaging. Maybe the messaging is more likely why the design didn't land. That's not to say design doesn't play a part in it. It plays a huge part in it. But being consistent is going to go a long way towards people being able to recognize when they're scrolling through and we're getting inundated with all that stuff. Like, oh, that's Claire. I know I like Claire. I want to see what Claire has to say. And if you're changing your fonts and your colors every other day, I'm not going to know it's you. I'm not going to stop because we
Right.
just are moving so quickly. So I
Right.
would say being very, very consistent. And if you're bored of your fonts and your colors and all of that, that's partially a good thing because it means you're being consistent. And it could just mean that your brand is lacking a little bit of substance. And that's where working with a designer can really help because we can create things like custom patterns and icons and textures and photo treatments so that you can have more variety within your consistency and build out more of like a cohesive experience rather than
Hmm.
like you're posting the same template over and over and over again.
Yeah. Yeah. Those are great tips.
Is
Or
that an
great.
okay answer?
Yeah, it's great. I mean, I really resonate with both of them. First, like design takes forever for me. It's not my zone of genius. And as soon as I can outsource it, I outsource it. And I can spend my time writing or doing readings or something else because, gosh, good Lord, it took me forever to design a reel cover and it wasn't even good. You know what I mean? So it's just the
I'm sure
worst.
it was beautiful.
It was
You have an
fine.
eye.
It was fine. I used my brand colors and um, I use the same fonts and I will continue to use those fonts because I heard your message. Consistency is the key. But yeah, it's so hard to be recognizable um, in this day and age, and that really sells me on consistency. You're talking to someone with Uranus on the ascendant who gets bored really easily, so it's always a
Mhm.
good reminder. Um, okay, so we all love planet channeling here. And I'm sure people are like itching to start tweaking their design right now. I love how we can use planet channeling to make all kinds of decisions in our business, and that extends into design, I would imagine. Of course, hire a designer and talk to your friendly planets about design. Who do you think, like if we're picking a planet to talk to about our brand, is there a planet that comes to mind, or do you think it would be different for everybody?
That's a tough question. It might be different for everybody.
Yeah,
But I would look to your chart ruler.
solid.
So the planet that rules your rising sign, because from a design point of view, the rising sign is where I would start.
Yeah.
But like you could probably also look to the planet that rules the 10th house of
Ooh,
career. And Venus is always lovely.
yeah.
But I can see certain situations where Venus would not be the strong, like it could depend on your, I think you could do this in like what kind of business do you have? Like if you have a fitness business, you're a coach and you're all about like movement, maybe Mars.
Right.
So it could depend on your industry and it could just depend on like what specific question you're asking. So
Yeah.
I think we should just like play around with that
Yeah.
and see like I would assume that if it's not the right planet for your question, you're just not going to get very satisfying answers and then you could move
Yeah.
on to the
Yeah.
next one. But I'm curious to flip that question back on you. What would you do?
What do I do? Because sometimes I need, all the time, I need design help. I agree with the chart ruler. I would start there. And then I like your answer about Venus, but it depends on your industry. However, Venus is also my midheaven ruler. So
Mhm.
I think for me personally, asking Venus would make sense. And so I'd probably sit both of them down and have a conversation with both of them. But I think for the listeners, I think starting with a chart ruler makes a ton of sense. Or if you have planets in the first house that really steer the car of your life, they could be really interesting to talk to as well, because they're definitely going to affect how you come across as an individual and therefore your brand as well, I would
Mm.
assume. So
Yeah,
everybody
that's a
play
really
with
good
that.
point. Play with that. Report back.
Report back. Let us know. Let us know. And
It's
speaking
funny
of,
though,
go ahead.
sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to like jump off your point about the midheaven ruler because one
Yeah.
of the most powerful planet channeling experiences I had was asking Venus and my midheaven ruler to have a conversation. And
Mm.
I took your tip, which everybody listening, if you haven't done this, do this. Ask them to talk to each other while you go to sleep. And then in the morning, journal on it. And I feel like that was so transformative. I love that exercise. I think you took us through that in another podcast episode. But yeah, the midheaven ruling planet and Venus together. That's like a
Yes.
powerhouse combo.
Yeah, that's an amazing combination. Yeah, I love making the planets work for me while I'm asleep. That's the best.
The best tip
That's the
ever.
best. I'm so glad you did that. And that leads me into the last thing I want to talk about with you is like, have you used planet channeling in your business? And if so, like, how have you done it?
Yes, I have.
Cool.
This is a newer concept to me because you just sort of introduced it to me recently.
Fun.
So I've just been dabbling, but I have not planet channeled anything to do with design because that's just like
You've got that in the
in
bag.
on a cellular level, it's in me. But it did help me shape my framework and make decisions about how I wanted to set that up. And it also gave me some pretty powerful answers about it helps me remove blocks. So whenever
Mhm.
I'm doing any kind of journaling and planet channeling included, I'm usually trying to figure out how to remove a block or how to simplify something that I've overcomplicated for myself because
Yeah,
that's my MO. Um, and I've had amazing results. So just like every other aspect of astrology, it's a really nice way to like crack open some part of you that you've built some kind of wall or shell around and get
hmm
to the like heart of the story of like why is this my belief? Why am I holding on to this? Can I let this go? Can I look at this differently?
Yeah,
I feel like coming at it from, so it's like the least specific example I could give
that's
you,
great.
but yes,
You gave me,
I have used
you
it.
told me that it helps shape your framework, which is really amazing because your framework is really amazing. And that's how I like to use it too. I love to planet channel like when I'm designing a service or designing an offer, and I ask certain planets to help me like name it or break it up into sections. Like you can get really technical with planet channeling and ask it to do all kinds of things. So I love that it helped you shape your framework and solidify that. So, Miranda, is there anything else you need to tell us about astrology and design that I have forgotten to ask? Because there's so much we could say, but otherwise, I've loved talking with you.
I mean, you ask such good questions.
Well, let us know where we can hire you and where we can follow you.
I will say one thing. Let's talk about one
Okay,
more thing.
I'm ready.
Um, so one of the things that we really want to do in branding is set you apart
Mm,
from other people in your industry. And so I think that the midheaven is something that people are talking about a little bit more now, but it's not the most popular place to look. Like everybody talks about your rising sign, everybody talks about your moon sign, but your midheaven sign is a really powerful place that you can go to for advice about particularly marketing
mm,
because this sign is all about how you're perceived by the public and how you show up in your career. And so I say it's like your professional aura. So if you're
nice.
struggling to figure out what makes me unique, because I think that's one of the toughest questions that anybody can answer about themselves,
Mm,
I would look at your midheaven qualities and know that some of those qualities might be things that you feel either you take them for granted, or you might have even been like scolded for in the past or like critiqued for and buried and been maybe slightly ashamed of. But those things are your superpowers in branding because we really want to amplify the stuff that makes you weird, that makes you unique, that makes you memorable. And in my experience, the Midheaven answers a lot of that. So I love looking there for that kind of tidbits of information.
that's awesome. And if your midheaven feels foreign to you, like raise your hand because it feels foreign to me. Like I have a Libra midheaven and I just don't see it. And so maybe that's something everybody else sees except for me. And so I really love what you are saying about it might have been something that I was shamed for or I was told not to present. That deserves some planet channeling there, some digging into it. But yeah, I totally agree that Midheaven is like that special sauce that you bring to whatever it is that you do. Um, and I love that you bring it into design. That's super amazing. So, Miranda, let us know where you live on the internet.
So my website is moonstonecreative.co, and I'm on Instagram at moonstonecreative.co. Yeah, that's where you can
Yeah.
find me.
Yep. Everyone go follow Miranda. She posts the most beautiful things and they're always so helpful too. Even if
Thank
you
you.
can't do design right now, like you'll get so many tips and so much inspiration. So make sure you give her a follow. Miranda, thank you so much for chatting with me today. I love you. You're the best.
I
I
love you too.
appreciate you.
We
Yeah, it
did
was so
it.
much fun. We did it. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
All right, Astro Lover, thank you so much for listening. I hope you really devoured that episode. There were so many good nuggets in there. If you want to learn more about Miranda, you can visit her on the socials at moonstonecreative.co or online at moonstonecreative.co. I'll talk to you next week.